Emily settled more tightly into her seat, looking out the window. They had already left the college campus and were moving along the highway. She and her husband, Aiden Lars, had just dropped off their youngest child, Maya, at a new school. In just 2 weeks, they had gone from a full house to being empty nesters. It was a bittersweet feeling, but at the same time exciting. Aiden and Emily met during their sophomore year of college, and Emily fell desperately in love with him. They were inseparable for the next 2 years and married the summer before their senior year. Aiden was in a 5-year program to earn his MBA, so Emily found a teaching job at a small private school while Aiden completed his senior year. As soon as he graduated, they moved to Aiden's hometown, where Aiden got a job at his father's small company as a production manager. Aiden's first salary was not long in coming. Their son Joshua was born 6 weeks after Aiden started his new job. The young couple were delighted with their son and were the picture of a happy young family. 2 years later, Maya joined them. Everything was perfect. Emily remained at home until Maya left for school. Afterward, she went back to the classroom, securing a job as a 4th-grade teacher in the same district where her children went to school. Emily loved working with children, and it kept her occupied during the hours her kids were at their own schools. Aiden's father-in-law owned a small manufacturing shop when Aiden graduated from high school. The elder Lars was a remarkable engineer whose shop produced high-quality specialty parts for various industries, including space applications. Their niche was low production volume, high quality, with good unit costs. Low volumes meant higher unit costs, but Lars manufacturing regularly beat its competitors on quality, even at higher prices. Aiden and his dad made a great team. While John Lars was an excellent engineer, he was not an accomplished businessman. Aiden knew enough engineering to reason intelligently, but he did not inherit his father's gift and passion. However, Aiden was an excellent businessman. Aiden handled sales, negotiations, and supply chain, leaving his father free to design and invent. Aiden was able to keep prices down while John maintained quality. Together, they turned Lars Manufacturing into a leader in its niche. The biggest difference now is that John and Aiden were family and shared the responsibility of owning the company. With John gone, Aiden is the sole owner, resulting in him working longer hours and traveling more than before. Emily glanced at her husband. At 40, Aiden still looked good. He had taken lessons from his father's example. His dark hair had a touch of gray, and he maintained his fitness. Although he was never a runner, Aiden favored water sports like rafting and scuba diving to stay active. Emily wasn't fond of getting wet, but she enjoyed relaxing in the boat while Aiden and their 2 children went diving. Emily didn't let herself go. She spent long hours at the gym, doing Pilates, Zumba, and yoga to stay in great shape. Her toned figure, B-cup breasts, and firm backside always turned heads. As a 4th-grade teacher, she was particularly popular with the dads at back-to-school parties. The kids going straight to college was unexpected. Josh finished 3rd in his class and got into the same engineering school his grandfather had attended. This institution prioritized hands-on experience, requiring students to complete 3 6-month internships throughout the 5-year program. If Josh stays on track, he will earn a master's degree in nuclear engineering in 5 years. While his grandfather had concentrated on practical engineering, Josh sought something a bit more vibrant. However, Josh's path wasn't a surprise. It turned out to be Maya. She had graduated from high school 2 years early, surpassing her older brother to take 2nd place in their graduating class. Josh just laughed and felt proud of his little sister. "You deserved it," he said, acknowledging how hard Maya had studied over the past 3 years to achieve her early graduation. However, he couldn't resist teasing her a bit for missing the valedictorian spot due to a B+ in art class. Now, Maya was beginning a pre-med and molecular biology program at an Ivy League school. Emily felt a mix of happiness and sadness for her daughter. She was thrilled for Mia, but disappointed that she wouldn't witness her attending a traditional high school. Emily was somewhat biased, convinced that at 18, Maya would undoubtedly win the title of prom queen. Over the past few years, they had grown apart, and Emily wished she could have had those 2 years to reconnect with her daughter. Emily, without uttering the word, turned and gazed out the window once more. Now everything will change entirely. The upcoming weeks will be challenging for everyone, but it was inevitable. "Any regrets?" Aiden asked. Emily sighed. Some, but I will live with him. It's time for a new chapter in our lives. Aiden laughed. You speak as if we are dying. With instant messaging and Skype, it will be almost as if the kids had never left. It's true, Emily agreed. For the next 4 hours of their drive, Emily and Aiden engaged in the casual conversations typical of a long married couple. They chatted about neighborhood gossip, household chores, and other everyday topics. Since today was Thursday and Aiden had taken Friday off to tackle some tasks around the house, Emily was compiling a list of things that needed to be done. Finally, they arrived home, and Aiden drove the minivan into its spot in the garage. Typically, the 3-car garage housed a 2-year-old minivan, Aiden's Camry, and a 2013 Corvette that Aiden had bought for himself. The Corvette was a point of contention for Emily. Aiden had just shown up with it one night 2 years ago without saying a word to her. He claimed it was a gift from the company that had signed its largest contract to date with a major contractor under the NASA contract. Technically, it belonged to the company, so Emily had little reason to complain, and the kids liked it immediately. As soon as the minivan was parked, Emily eased her slightly sore body out of it. After spending 8 hours in the car today, hauling all of Maya's belongings into her dorm, and the wild sex the night before, Emily was desperate for a hot shower and to crawl into bed. I need to go get some milk, Aiden said as he stepped out of the minivan. Emily moaned, Why didn't you stop on the way here? Their house was 10 minutes from town, and they had passed 2 stores after exiting the highway. You looked like you needed to get home, and I didn't mind. Emily felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. Aiden could be so considerate sometimes. I'll take the vet. The evening is gorgeous, and driving is much more fun than in this minivan. Emily waved it off. Before she could enter the house, Aiden was already in the car, driving out of the garage. With the V8 roaring, he was gone. Emily went up to her room and undressed to take a shower. She felt like she was missing something. Aiden was such a great guy. In many ways, he was the ideal husband and father. But soon he would be gone, and Emily would embark on a new life. 3 years ago, Aiden's constant travel began to bother her. Things were going well in the company. The children were wonderful, but Emily felt lonely. Intellectually, she understood that Aiden was not to blame for the loss of her father, but emotionally she felt abandoned. One evening, with Aiden out and the kids spending time with friends, Emily joined some fellow teachers at a restaurant. They enjoyed themselves, drinking several bottles of wine to keep the fun going. On a whim, they decided to visit the club next door. While dancing with Bob Werner, a fellow teacher, Emily was interrupted by Cash Gillis, an engineer from Aiden's company. Cash, a fantastic dancer, made the evening even more enjoyable for Emily. When the other teachers left, she chose to stay and dance some more. As the night came to an end, Cash called a taxi to take her home. She hugged him warmly and gave him a peck on the cheek before climbing into the car. A week later, with Aiden away on another business trip, Cash sent Emily a message inviting her to another night of dancing. Delighted, Emily had another wonderful evening. She met several of Cash's friends, who welcomed her into their group. Emily felt more alive than she had since she and Aiden first got married. Though she knew it was harmless and innocent fun, she never mentioned it to Aiden. It was a bit of a secret, her little revenge for Aiden leaving her alone so frequently. Dancing became a regular activity whenever Aiden was away on business. Josh played hockey, so he usually left for training until 11 p.m., as they didn't go on ice until 9. After school, he returned home, had dinner, and left before Emily got back from school. Consequently, he never noticed Emily's absence. It was more challenging with Mia. Since she didn't play sports, Emily enrolled her in a series of enrichment classes at a local community college. The classes were on different evenings, so Emily didn't have a consistent schedule. Additionally, she never attended during the weeks Aiden was home. Cash was a blessing and quickly became her best friend and confidant. He sat at dinner before their dance, listening to her stories about how Aiden had left her alone. She admitted with a shy smile that during dances, she now looked forward to Aiden's absence. Cash was her rock. Initially hesitant, Cash started to open up about how he felt misused by Aiden. He explained how Aiden ignored good engineering practices to squeeze more profit out of the business, and how he sold ideas that Cash developed to clients for huge amounts of money without ever sharing the proceeds. Emily was furious with her new best friend and demanded to meet Aiden immediately. Cash reassured her, explaining that Aiden had legally bound him to the contract he signed when he first joined the company. The company owns the intellectual property rights to all employee developments, so nothing forces Aiden to share the wealth. Angry that her husband had abandoned her and treated her friend poorly, Emily leaned over and hugged Cash. The hug turned into a passionate kiss. They quickly left the restaurant and headed straight to Cash's townhouse. That evening, they never made it to the dance. Emily refused to call it an affair. She was in love with her true soulmate. The sex was wild and fun. Cash was the man she was meant to be with. At 36, Emily was the mother of 2 and a schoolteacher, yearning to divorce her husband and begin a new life with her true love, her husband's 29-year-old co-worker. They still went to dances once a week, and when the kids and Aiden were away, Emily often found herself in Cash's bed. 2 things held her back from proceeding with the divorce. The first was her children. Having witnessed many of her students experience the effects of divorce, she didn't want her own kids to grow up with 2 separate families. Aiden was a wonderful father when he was home, and she still had enough residual feelings for him to want him to remain in their children's lives. However, she didn't want to part with them. The second proposal came from Cash. Aiden had recently promoted him to director of engineering, which came with a significantly higher salary and a larger annual performance bonus. Cash wanted to take some time to establish himself in this new role and build relationships with clients. He suggested that Emily could get the company in the divorce, and they would run it together as it should be. The engineering and production staff will support me over Aiden, who's seen as the absentee boss, Cash argued. Together, the lovers devised a plan for their future and support. They decided to wait until Mia graduated from school before moving forward with their plan. Meanwhile, Cash would work on gaining the support of the employees so they would be ready when the time came. Emily emerged from the shower, her body bare. For the first time all day, she felt her muscles unwind. The previous night, she and Cash had celebrated Mia's departure for school, and her lover had pushed her to the brink of exhaustion. Maya's early graduation had enabled them to advance their plan by 2 entire years, much to Cash's delight. The hot water and lotions had done wonders, and now she was prepared to crawl into bed. She hoped Aiden wouldn't want to celebrate with her today. Wrapping a large fluffy towel around her body, Emily walked into the spacious dressing room she shared with Aiden. She grabbed her robe and turned to leave, but suddenly froze. She turned to look into the closet. All of Aiden's things were gone. Emily ran over to Aiden's dresser and saw that the top had been cleared. She opened the drawers, and they were also empty. All of Aiden's personal belongings were missing from the bathroom as well. Emily ran down the stairs and found everything in the kitchen as it should be. However, in the living room, she realized some family photos were missing from the wall, and Aiden's movie collection had disappeared. Her panic intensified when she reached Aiden's home office, discovering it had been entirely cleared out. She sank to the floor as the enormity of the situation hit her. Aiden had abandoned her. He waited until Maya left for school and then abandoned her. A sudden fear gripped her. Could Aiden know about Cash and their plans? Emily dashed back up the stairs to grab her cell phone. She should have called Cash. As she burst into her room, she spotted an envelope resting on a DVD in the center of her bed. Her hands trembling, Emily picked up the envelope and saw her name written in Aiden's handwriting on the front. She opened it and read, "Emily, I've loved you since we first met. You were the only one I wanted to spend my whole life with. That it would never be true was my biggest failure. I couldn't avoid travel and still keep the business going. You never said you had problems. Instead, you threw yourself into the arms of that sneaky Cash. I was shocked when I found out that you had a connection with this snake in the grass. If there was ever an Eddie Haskell Creek, it was Cash. Cash kissed my ass in the office and then hit me in the back while I was away. I found out too late, after I promoted the rat, what he really was like. He turned my employees against me, just as he turned my wife into his personal whore. One misquote here, one innuendo there, and the engineering staff was ready to quit en masse. I was clueless and didn't realize anything about your affair until it had been going on for a year. When I read the investigator's report, I understood that it was too late to save our marriage. There was no coming back from this betrayal. The only thing I agree with you on is waiting until Maya finishes school. Don't worry about telling the kids, they already know. In fact, it was Maya who told me. Our 14-year-old daughter had to inform her father that her mother was a cheater. Remember that surprise diving trip I took Mia to the Keys? She returned home and overheard a rather frank conversation you were having with your friend. She collapsed on the floor, and you completely lost sight of her as you left to meet this asshole. Maya called me to come home. It took me the entire 4 days of the weekend to get her to control herself. Of course, I later found out that you spent almost all this time in Cash's bed and whined that I left you. Since we returned from that trip, she has been in consultation with me. You know, Maya wanted to finish school early. When I decided to stay with you until she finished, Maya resolved to work hard to graduate ahead of time. I almost ended it right then and pursued a divorce, but Maya insisted she could do it. I was both proud and shocked by her determination. We didn't tell Josh until after he graduated. Since then, he has been consulting with Maya. He was astonished that his mother could accomplish such a feat. I had to present him with an edited version of my evidence to convince him and Maya. I understand you still love him and his sister and stay for their sake. I believe this is the only thing that can salvage your relationship with him. Good luck with Maya. As for your and your lover's plan to steal my company, you still didn't understand that the company belongs to a family trust. After his father's death, his descendants became shareholders. These are our 2 children and me. It will never be considered part of our community property in a divorce. Only the salary I received, my pension, and my house fall into this category. That's why I asked the trust to buy my vet. I can't sell the trust, but I can, with the help of the board of trustees, sell the company to the trust. The trustees consist of Josh, Maya, and myself. When Lars manufacturing employees walk into that office on Monday, they are in for a real shock. I could tell you about it, but why ruin the surprise? I discovered the letter you intended to give me when I was served. As the song goes, you probably felt the need to make things right. Well, I have news for you, and you'll soon see that it's true. You'll have to eat your lunch alone, but I've already left. If only you would talk to me. Last time, with love, Aiden. Emily collapsed onto her bed, overwhelmed by the thought of her children discovering what she had done and intended to do to their father. God, she cried, I lost them all. When Lars manufacturing employees arrived at the office, they were greeted by an email informing them that the company had been sold to a much larger firm that wanted to fill their niche. Aiden never showed up at the office. In his place were the new owners and Aiden's corporate lawyer. Teams that worked long hours in production and support found that their pensions were guaranteed for at least another 5 years of work or a buyout equal to the remaining time. The engineers who sided with Cash did not receive such a guarantee. They turned their backs on Cash when his promises of a lucrative future turned to ashes. Cash attempted to reach Emily to uncover what had transpired, but his calls were consistently diverted to voicemail. Aware that Aiden had been home all weekend, he wasn't optimistic about speaking with Emily. Now she was dodging his calls. In a desperate move to salvage his plans, Cash decided to visit her directly. He pulled into Emily's driveway and scanned the area for any indication of Aiden's presence. Peering into the garage, he noticed the Corvette was missing, signifying that Aiden was not home either. The doorbell rang, but there was no response, so he just walked in. Emily, he called out. Silence. He continued calling her name as he searched the house. Eventually, he discovered Emily seated on the bed, engrossed in a video playing on a flat-screen TV mounted on the wall. Emily, he repeated. Emily, appearing oblivious to his presence, extended her hand with the remote control and pressed the play button. The TV sprang to life, and Cash was stunned to hear his own voice emanating from the screen. Well, she's hot, Cash said on the screen. He realized it was his own entertainment room, and a few of his friends were there. I don't think I could have done it if she wasn't like that. A little care, and she was instantly in my bed. I'll take this asshole's company by sleeping with his old lady so she can give it to me. Then I will wait a few years to do the same with his daughter. She's hot, but I can't do this with a teenager. His friends responded with rude laughter and vulgar comments. Cash remembered when the video was recorded, 8 months ago. That same day, it had been announced that the 16-year-old in question would be allowed to graduate from school that year. Cash was thrilled that his plans had moved forward by 2 whole years. Emily then turned to face the wall. Minutes or hours later, when she turned back around, he was gone. She never saw him again. Emily was circled on Tuesday. She wasn't surprised to see that Aiden was completely fair in his divorce proposal minus 50-50, with her keeping the $1.2 million house and Aiden taking most of their long-term investments. There was a lump sum balance between the current value of his pension and her pension from the school district. Additionally, an educational trust was set up to cover the children's education and expenses. But for this justice, there will be no alimony and no further contact. In exchange, the videos will remain unseen. Aiden would have full custody of Maya, though she would be away at college for most of the year, making it almost a moot point. A personal note from Maya stated she refused to be forced to spend the next 2 years of school holidays with my mom and her lover. Seeing those words in her sweet daughter's handwriting felt even more painful than those damn videos. What has she done?